Welcome to rSlash Am I the Devil, where OP wants to figure out how to trick her husband into abandoning his baby. Our next Reddit post comes from rSlash_Trashy. My fiance has a 4-year-old daughter. Her mother passed away when she was born. He's been raising her on his own ever since he lost his wife. I'm now in the picture, and we're set to get married soon. I'm also 7 months pregnant with a precious little girl. I am not the stepmother type, and I know that I won't treat his daughter the same way that I'll treat our child. To be quite honest, she gets on my damn nerves. For one, the little girl looks just like her mother, and having her around constantly reminds my fiance of his dead wife. Second, she's very attached to her daddy, and I'm afraid this is going to take away from my child's bond with her father. I basically want to tell my fiance to get rid of her. She can go live with her grandparents, or we can find her a nice family that's looking to adopt a child. I don't know how to approach this situation, but I need to find a way to convince my fiance to let her go. I promise I'm not a bad person. I'm just trying to look out for my child and make sure she receives all of her daddy's attention without having her older sister intervene. Please help. OP, you promise you're not a bad person? Are you sure? Are you positive? You absolutely pinky swear cross your heart promise you're not a bad person? Because it definitely sounds like you're a bad person. Sounds like you're scum. If you're not the stepmother type, why did you marry a man who has a child? You moron. Our next Reddit post comes from r/Am I the Butthole. Am I the butthole for being annoyed that my wife allowed my brother to stay at our house? I'm a 39-year-old guy. My brother, who's 20, lives with his girlfriend about an hour's drive away from me and my wife. My brother and I have never been close due to our age difference. Our parents had me young and then him later in life. He was always the spoiled one who got whatever he wanted. Me and my brother see each other on holidays and special occasions, but other than that, we might talk on the phone once or twice a month. Last night I had to work late and I couldn't be reached by phone. When I got off, I noticed that I had 2 missed calls from my brother and a few from my wife. But it was already close to 11 p.m., so I chose to just drive home and not call and possibly wake someone up. I walk into the house to see my wife and my brother on the couch playing Mario Kart. When I walk in, they both say hi and go back to their game. I went to the bedroom to shower and frankly just sleep. I was exhausted. My wife comes in a few minutes later and I ask her why my brother was there. She said that he called her because he and his girlfriend got into a pretty heated argument and he just needed to get away from the situation for a while he figured out what he was going to do. They only have one car and it's in the girlfriend's name, so he couldn't drive it. Apparently, he tried to call me, and when I didn't answer, he called her, and she went to pick him up an hour away, even though she hates driving at night. They also went out to dinner before coming home. I told her I find it odd that she would pick up my brother and take him to dinner just because he got into an argument with his girlfriend, that he's an adult and needed to work it out. She just rolled her eyes at me and said that he would be staying in the spare room as long as he needed, that I was acting weird, and that he's my brother and she has no idea why it's such a big deal that he's here. I told her that if someone is staying at my house, especially my family, then I should be the one who decides that. That he had no right to call her, that he should have waited for me to call him back, and that I would have talked to him in the morning. She told me to deal with it and grow up, that he was always welcome here. My wife is now mad at me, and I'm stuck with my brother in the house for who knows how long until he figures out his life. We already have 2 teenagers. I don't need another kid in here. I stand by what I said. My brother doesn't need to be here, but my wife is still mad at me today. So, am I the butthole? Okay, there's a big update after this, and apparently that's where the major r/Am I the Devil energy comes from. But just real quick, I don't even understand why OP is so angry. This is like a really weird thing to be upset about. I think, honestly, if the reverse happened, if the wife didn't pick up the brother or didn't, take him to dinner and let him stay in the house, then most people would be upset at their wife for that, right? Don't most people care about their siblings, even if they're not that close? You want to throw them a bone when they're in trouble, So I don't really understand why OP is being so weirdly territorial about this. But okay, on to the update. I don't think that I'm a bad person just because I think that people who are 18 should be out of the house and not relying on their family to support them. People need to grow up and be adults. I expect the same from my kids. They're expected to have a job and save money to move out when they're 18 and graduated from high school. If they go to college, then they can stay at home, but they're expected to pay for it on their own and pay rent. My wife doesn't agree with this and says that they can stay as long as they need. I'm trying to make her see reason. As a kid, I was never taken to the zoo, museums, or out to eat. I was sent to a public school and not allowed to play sports or do activities because there was never money. I had to get a job as soon as I could. My parents were 16 when they had me. Even when they got older and had more money, I still didn't get the opportunities that my brother was given. He got the best, and I got nothing. It's time that he stood on his own. Yes, my kids got to go to the zoo, park, and museums and play sports and attend activities. They get a lot of what I didn't, but those are my kids, not my brother. I don't see why my wife would take him along with her. My brother has always loved her like another mom, so I had to share her with my brother too. I got home from work last night, and everyone was getting ready for dinner. After dinner, I told the kids to please go to their room so I could talk to my brother and wife. I asked my brother why he was there and why he felt the need to call us instead of working it out. He said that he just needed to get out of the house. He had found out that his girlfriend had cheated on him and she was planning on leaving. She had apparently blamed him for her cheating because he wouldn't marry her or have a baby with her, and that was what she really wanted. I said that what she wanted wasn't unreasonable, that he was being immature, that if he could live with her, he could marry her. My wife said that not everyone wants to be married and have kids that young, but he's an adult. Grow up. I said that I didn't appreciate them making decisions without me. This could have been sorted out the next morning. No one needed to drive 2 hours or run away from home. I asked when my brother planned on leaving. He talked to his girlfriend. She was moving out by Sunday, then he would go home. He had 2 months left on the lease, so he was going to look for something smaller to move into. I said that I didn't like him staying that long. My wife said, "He's your brother. A few days aren't going to kill anyone." I agreed just to stop the fight. I didn't like it, but I felt backed into a corner. I still think he needs to go home and deal with his own problems. My brother said, "Thanks, I appreciate it," and walked off. My wife and I talked some more, and neither one of us is really happy with one another. Man, so obviously OP is just like a jealous, mean, bitter, unhappy person, but I might be being too weak and soft here, but I kind of feel sorry for him. Because clearly he had a really unpleasant, not fun, miserable childhood, and that clearly caused some issues later in life. You'd think that now at the age of 39 he would have learned to deal with that, but apparently not. He just expects everyone else to be as miserable as he was. So I do feel sorry for him, but OP is still a butthole here. Man, it's funny that this guy says he wants his kids to pay rent and pay for their own college. Didn't we just read a story like a week or two ago about a guy who was forced to pay everything, pay his own rent, pay his own college, and it built up this incredible resentment with his parents where he refused to take their money and refused to spend any time with them, and as soon as he graduated, he just cut them out of his life entirely? Well, OP, I don't know if that's going to happen with you, but it might. Our next Reddit post comes from r/legal advice. A failed job applicant has accused our business of not hiring him or other black people because of their race. Can he sue us based on that accusation alone? Can we sue him for slandering our business? My brother and I own a small business that we built from scratch in college, and we're doing quite well. Recently, our manager left us to move out of state with his wife. He'd been a good friend of ours for a long time. He'd been with us since we first started the business. Up until now, we'd been hiring from among people that we personally know, or at the very least on the basis of recommendations from people that we know. There are many benefits to this. We know who we're dealing with, which is more important than on-paper qualifications. To our dismay, we had a rough time finding people who we not only liked, but also could do what needed to be done. So we posted an ad online. Of all the terrible applications we got, one application really stuck out. He didn't have social media, which was a red flag, but he was well qualified and I liked the way that he wrote, so I scheduled a meeting. As soon as he came in and introduced himself, it became apparent to me that he had misrepresented himself in his emails. And within 5 minutes, I was absolutely sure that he was not getting hired. His qualifications were good, but I just didn't like him, and he wouldn't fit in, so it wasn't happening. I rushed the interview along and got him out of my office, thinking that my actions had communicated my disinterest. We wound up promoting one of the guys that worked for us into the vacant position the next day, and easily replaced him in his previous role 2 days after that. About a week after the interview, the guy came back in and asked about his job. I told him a version of the truth, that he didn't seem to be a good fit and we'd already filled the position. Instead of graciously accepting what he should have already known, this guy had a tantrum. He accused me of not hiring him because he was black, called us racist who would rather hire a less qualified white man over a black man with an MBA, and said that it's obvious that we discriminate because all of our employees are white, and there's no excuse for that in Chicago. I told him that the reason that he wasn't hired was because I didn't like his attitude, and I didn't think that he was a good fit, and that going to school and getting pieces of paper aren't the only things that make someone qualified. I then told him to leave before I called the cops, and then he threatened to sue us and called me a racist B-word. Does it sound like he has any grounds to sue us? Do we have grounds to sue him for slandering our business? I could really care less about the accusation itself, but it could hurt our reputation. Regardless of what goes on in our heads, or what my brother and I say in private conversations with one another or with our wives, we have never given any public indication that we discriminate in our hiring process. Every time we have to turn away this is in quotation marks, guys, turn away a bad fit, we've always given them a plausible reason, and we've never been stupid enough to say to the applicant what we say to ourselves or one another. The composition of our workplace relative to the demographics of the area can be explained by the fact that we mostly hire from among our friends and family. But I don't think that needs to be explained, since this is a private entity and we're not bound to any sort of racial quota. Okay, hold on a second. So you are racist, right? You pretty much admit to it when you say that you have racist thoughts and you say racist things to your racist coworkers and your racist family members, and then you don't hire someone because of racism, and now you're shocked that you're getting sued because you didn't hire someone because of racism? Is that right? Did I get that correct? and your reaction is, hey, internet, hey, Reddit, can I sue this black person because I'm a racist and they called me racist? Can I sue him? Man, you gotta wonder, how did this guy misrepresent himself in his emails? You think it's because he has a white-sounding name, like John? In one of the comments, OP said that he did the equivalent of ending the first date before the breadsticks even hit the table. So apparently, this black guy walked into the business, OP saw the black guy, and then OP's jaw just dropped. He had some look of racist panic on his face. And then before they even sat down to do the interview, the guy's like, actually, you know what? Never mind. Just leave. We don't need to talk to you anymore. Please exit the building. Thank you. Please go be black somewhere else. Goodbye. And then OP is like, how could he tell that I'm racist? What? This is preposterous. It's not like I ever told him that I'm racist. Our next Reddit post comes from rSlash Am I Overreacting? My wife and I are in our 30s. We've been married for 2 years. When we got married, we moved to a nice small house in the suburbs. Last summer, we got a new mailman who's objectively attractive. I'm not going to go into detail, but he looks good. Towards the end of summer, I noticed that my wife was almost always outside the time that he would bring mail. I actually started tracking when she would go outside on a spreadsheet. She averaged going out about 20 minutes before the mail would get here. Obviously, there was some variation because the mail didn't come at the exact time each day, but it was weird. She would work on our front patio and then have a short conversation with the mailman. Then, after an average amount of 7 minutes, she would come back inside and work from her office. Another thing I noticed is that her clothes seemed to change when she went outside. Almost 70% of the time she would have a tank top on. Then, she would put a shirt over that when she came back inside. I didn't say anything as fall and winter came, and we live in a cold climate, so she stopped going out. Once in a while, she would go say hi to him, but not like in the summer. She also gave him a very nice tip for Christmas, $250. I had forgotten all about this until it started getting warmer out with spring. I couldn't do another summer of this, so I decided to go talk to her. Last night, I sat her down and showed her all the information from last year. I explained that I didn't feel comfortable with how much attention she gave the mailman, and I asked if she could not do it this summer. She didn't understand, or maybe she didn't understand the numbers. She got very upset and started yelling that she didn't do anything wrong and just happened to be out there while he was out there. I tried to show her the numbers again, but she got upset and slammed the computer lid on my finger. At that point, I was upset, so I walked out and went for a walk. When I got home, she was gone and wouldn't answer her phone. She finally came home, but she wouldn't talk to me. She slept on the couch, and I honestly didn't get any sleep. It's been a very weird day, as she's only talking to me when absolutely needed. Otherwise, she's distant and won't talk to me. Am I overreacting, or is it normal for women to talk to the mailman? I love how this is r/, am I overreacting when the guy is tracking how much his wife talks to other men on a spreadsheet? Yes, clearly. When you start doing statistical analysis on your girlfriend's day-to-day activities, then clearly you've got a jealousy issue. That was r/am I the Devil, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.